Hello, millions and millions and millions of internet fans out there from all times, all spaces, and all multiple dimensions. It is I, Sylvia, and I'm here tonight with Ellie J, my very first Twitter buddy. Hello, ex-buddy. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, just tell us a little bit
The,
about what you do.
well, it's great to be here. I'm an independent author on Twitter. I write mostly fiction, so I've done a couple of genres. I've done science fiction, I've done thriller, but what I tend to do is try and make them funny. So I try and add sarcasm or some dialogue, wit, and things. So this is my latest release, which is a science fiction story called Planet of Lies, which came out back end of last year, and that's selling very well at the moment because there's a lot of banter in the dialogue, which I really specialize in and I really enjoy writing.
Cool. That's really cool. We'll drop a link to your books in the comments below, shall we?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a good idea. Now, the reason we're here tonight is because um, marketing books on X is an interesting experience, isn't it?
Definitely an interesting experience. It's got its own peculiarities. Sometimes you post something that's a very straightforward marketing post. It's got links and it's got graphics and it's all done up to look pretty and beautiful, and nobody sees it. Doesn't get any traction at all because the algorithm's just not your friend today. And then sometimes you post something that you think's nothing to do with your writing, and suddenly you've sold a couple of books from it. So it's a very fickle beast.
I think, yeah. So I really enjoyed some of your posts, and I can't remember what it was that tripped me off with this, but I just loved something you said, and I had some weird ideas about some creative marketing, and so I thought, what would happen if we got together and started going a bit bananas, as the case may be?
That's very relevant because I think it was that we were talking at the time about bananas that tricked it. Because I was saying, "Oh, I posted this gif of a dancing banana, and for some reason it sold books. What's that all about?" And, and you said maybe we should start putting weird things with our books in pictures, like get a copy of your book and put a banana with it and see if it works. But
Yeah,
it's
let's
not.
I mean, I think that's a really good idea, and I have like a star story for this. Like so we'd have this book. Where's the damn camera? And we could put an owl on it. There, and
Yes,
then take a
and
picture.
see if that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, my weird story about this is I my young teenage son got a bit upset. I'm a bit of an artist when I'm left to my own devices. And one point I was cutting logs into small slices to make energy symbol sets. And I had a huge circular table saw on the kitchen table. It was filled with, I mean, the whole kitchen was basically filled with sawdust and bits of wood everywhere, and so he got up, came in the morning, and went, oh, for God's sake, every night I go to bed and I dread what I'm going to find when I come to the kitchen the next morning. And so I evilly got up the next day, and I was still working on that. And I placed a large plate of cookies in the sawdust on top of the circular saw, and then lurked around the corner and waited as he came in. It was like, ugh, 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 cookies, ugh, sawdust, cookies, sawdust. It was beautiful. And he finally then went, ugh, just gave up and went and got the plate of cookies and walked out again. And so I'm
Oh,
thinking to myself, if we want to market our books to a certain audience, we could place objects that they find so attractive, they get sexually excited, and it gets
yeah,
combined with the book, and then you get loads of sales. What about that?
yeah. It's like an association between the two things in the end. Because I've seen people on the internet do like a facetious thing where pictures of people's bodies posed in provocative ways are getting lots of attention, so I'm going to pose, but I'm going to hold my book up like a sensor. And I've seen people use that before. It's just finding the thing that you can do it with, the thing that's so attractive, whether it's food or bodies, or there's always something.
Well, I mean,
people really
you're right.
want.
I mean, it is as old as the hills. I mean, they used to put pretty girls draped over cars and motorcycles in order to sell them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basic
The old saying
marketing.
that sells, so.
Yes. My partner, he would get super excited if you had a number 10 spanner lying on that book. He'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
so
That's a unique thing.
Well, if that's your target
I think
audience,
that lots of people would. I mean, some people it's tools. There's lots of men who are really nerdy over certain tools, or you could put various different things that have a following together with the book. It's just considering what your target audience might find attractive or might really
super
be into.
exciting. Yeah. Also, I'm thinking it's kind of for, especially a fiction book. I have how-to books and fiction books, and the how-to books are so much easier to sell because, this is who this is for. This is what problem it solves. This is what you get if you actually do the bloody exercises in the book, which nobody ever does. God damn it!
There's a much more instantly obvious target audience, isn't there?
Well, yes, it is. Well, it's people who buy self-help books basically, and read them, but not do the exercises.
People with a specific problem, whether or not they actually then want to solve the problem when you've told them how to, is a different matter.
But when you're dealing with fiction, it's different. I mean, how do I explain what's in my fiction book? I mean, how do I explain that? I mean, hang on, I will. Oh, look, I have a claim to fame. Do you know what that is? That is a NaNoWriMo cup. National Writing Month.
I didn't know they did cups. I've seen the hashtag. I didn't know they did cups for it.
Yeah, if you actually complete it in a month, you get eligible to purchase a cup. You don't get given one. You get eligible to purchase a cup. So as I did that, so here's a book. It's part one of a trilogy, and you've got book two. I mean, we can say, yeah, okay, it's about this sorcerer and an apprentice, and they kind of have this weird love affair, and all hell is let loose. We can say that, but I'm wondering, using that sort of attraction thing, if there's not a better way to combine that with something else, to tell people in a more creative way. I mean, this is why we're here. We're creative writers, right? Which means we're creative.
Yeah.
So let's have some creative advertising ideas. That was my thinking behind that, because I see so many people on the writers on X. I don't know how I landed in the writers community, but I have somehow. And so I keep seeing all these people, I don't want to market my book, and I can't market my book, and I don't like it, and I don't know. And I'm thinking, look, creative writer, let's be creative, right?
Yeah, you would have thought that it would come more naturally, but a lot of people seem to think that creative writing only applies to the writing side, and that the marketing bit's sort of not for them. Well, there's actually a lot that you could do with it. A lot of my marketing that's done in a creative way isn't actually a lot about the books. It doesn't really tell you anything about what I've written. It's about getting an idea across to the audience so that they want to buy something from me, whether they really like the concept of the book or not. So sometimes I don't know if you've seen them. So the first of every month I do a ridiculous deal that isn't really a deal. You don't actually get anything, where I say, well, the first person to buy a book this month will get, and sometimes it's something stupid like my firstborn child, or we'll get superpowers or something, and it works. And I don't even
That's
have
really
to say
cool.
what the
I like
book's
that.
about.
I really like that. That's a really cool idea to say, then yeah. Well, look, if you buy this book, you're going to get magic powers. We just turn that so that the
Yeah,
light
because
is
it's
exactly in the
about
center.
magic. So why wouldn't you?
Look into the light, my children. Yeah, I mean, if you buy this book, you get magic powers, free magic powers with every copy sold. I'm kind of thinking, this Twitter thing, X thing. We're in a sorry, people from 20 years in the future. We're in this transitional phase where everybody. Oh, I still think of Twitter as Twitter, but it's also called X. So my apologies. I'm thinking that this idea of so grab one of your books and hold it up.
Let's do a different one to the one I've already held up. Let's see this one. Where's the camera? There we go.
Okay,
Can you still
I'm
see
going to
me?
hold mine up. And we're going to think to ourselves, the people who would really love that book, really would love it. What things do they find super exciting? What would make them go, ooh, like my kid with the cookies? What do you think? What objects come to mind when you think about this? I keep thinking
Objects is a really tricky one to think of because
because picture
it's
says more
quite
than 1,000
abstract
words.
in some ways. But yes, but my dad compared. He's read all of my books because he's very supportive, and he compared this series that this is the first book of to the Rocky Horror Show, which is quite an obscure thing to compare it to. But
Interesting, but
you
that's a
could then say,
huge target audience. That's a
yeah.
huge
So
target
you could then
audience. Now,
include that in your marketing.
the thing with Twitter X is that um, you're putting things out and they're washing away in the river instantly. They're flowing down the
Yeah, there's
stream
so much
instantly.
on there that it just gets lost.
Right. It's not like having billions of dollars and having this marketing campaign where the same billboard is the length down the interstates and on Times Square and on television and on YouTube and everywhere else, where you're having to construct this one marketing campaign. We're dealing with something much more spontaneous, quicker, further. I mean, I'm not an expert on the Rocky Horror Show, but what are sort of the key things, pictures, images, objects associated with that?
There's a lot of really strange things, so it's purposely quite bizarre. It's quite satirical, so you could maybe use some of the things that they satire. So there's quite a famous picture. I can't remember what it's called now, but there's quite a famous picture that they satire in the film by having the actors dressed up as the people from the painting there. So you could maybe
Okay,
use that
and the
painting
painting,
as a
yeah, the painting is
association.
not copyrighted. It's not copyrighted to the Rocky Horror people, is it? It's a
No, it's a
public
public
domain,
domain work,
right? So now that would be
whereas
interesting.
referencing the actual film would be copyrighted, so you could use it in a more abstract way and use the picture instead.
Yes, good thinking. And so there's things that I know a bit about. Rocky Horror is not one of them, but there's things that I know, and I'll recognize the reference, and I get a little warm, fuzzy feeling when I see somebody reference something that a lot of people won't get, but I will. So, yeah, I mean, if
Mhm.
Rocky Horror people would find this an interesting book, if it's in their on their vibe, I think that'd be a great way to get more attention. I'm having tingles. When I get tingles, my spider
I
sense
think
literally tingles.
I think that's the power of referencing other sources of media, though, because there's always going to be somebody who really, like you said, gets a warm feeling from seeing something referenced, and it will mean more to them because you did that, even if it's
Yes,
just
and
a
not just
small throwaway line.
And not just that, there is a good chance that they're really gonna like your book because that
Because you've got
underlying
similar
connection exists.
interests there.
Hmm. Like also, there's just a resonance.
Yes.
I'm the person who says we have real living energy bodies. People, human spirits are real, and they are certain setups in people's energy bodies that create a certain resonance. And so I've always gotten on like a house on fire with David Bowie fans.
Yeah, because if there's
I would,
something that
I
resonates
would,
with you
oh,
about the same, if it's like, it's almost like the same energy, the same vibes from one thing comes across
mhm,
in the same way from something completely different, but it has the
mhm,
same impact on that person, then they're really going to like it because it reminds them of, or it draws on the same themes of something else.
And I think, look, the most important thing, Twitter or anywhere else, is to make this first tentative contact with the potential reader, isn't it? It's there is this absolute flood of people who are writing and posting their things, and the writers live trying to sell it to other writers, which always makes me giggle because it's like trying to sell each other shovels in the gold rush. This is not going to make you rich at all. You need to be mining for gold, people. Stop selling each other shovels. But yeah,
And the thing
th-
is as well that there's often this sense of sort of mindless spam, people just posting link after link after link after link. The thing is, nowadays, a bot can do that on Twitter or any other
yes.
social media platform. So you need
Oh
to sort
yeah.
of stand out and you need to get the reader's attention. Because once you've got their attention, even if they don't instantly buy something, you have the chance to establish selling them and you have the chance to sell them future books as well as the ones that you currently have. But you have to get their attention for the first moments. It's like a hook, and then you try and sell them something.
This attention thing, a lot of people like to do it negatively. They try and get negative attention. This is useless for authors. Let's not. I hope nobody will. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't want that. But I'm thinking in terms of, so that book you had there, Rocky Horror Show, I'm thinking, well, David Bowie fans might enjoy this. That's interesting. And that's because we probably resonate with that. So people that, they would resonate with that too. That's a first human connection that bots don't create. That is a first sort of line of where people might look at it and go, oh yeah, I recognize that. That is something that I like or that I understand. I say, yes, it's really rather interesting, isn't it? But something you said there
Yeah.
about you need to stand out as a human being, that's absolutely essential. Just posting your book covers is not going to cut the mustard. Not anymore. It really isn't. I mean, it's got to be a human author behind this. I believe this is essential. And then we can
It
help
is.
the reader make that connection by referencing things. And it doesn't just have to be one thing. I mean, with your book there, okay, so we got Rocky Horror, but what else? Let's get creative here. What else? What else is that connected to?
So
What else?
you see, you could do quite stereotypical things like based on the setting. So these stories are set in Russia and there's a mafia thing, so you could reference maybe like the hats mafia people wear in the films, or something associated with Russia, like a bear or vodka, or
Hmm,
you could reference things that people associate with the tropes that you're using as well, or
yeah.
you could reference a type of character. So I often draw my characters from my books in an anime or cartoon style because I think they have a lot in common with the kind of characters that you see in that media. and that I always liked in media that I watched of that kind. So I'm thinking, well, if I liked that, I was influenced by it, the reader might like that and
Right,
be
there's your
influenced by
connection
it as well.
again. Yep, there's your connection again with something that will help the reader in this absolute flood of books everywhere. Absolute flood of books, fantasy books and science fiction books and all books. Absolute fucking flood. To that it stands out and that it causes the reader to react there and go, oh, oh man, look at that, it's Russia. And I think that
Hmm.
it's super important for indie authors, particularly. I mean, proper authors, indie authors, are that your humanity, your preferences, what you love, what you find exciting. So it's not just a standard trope about Russia. It's your tropes about Russia. What do you think when you think about Russia? Do you think bears and vodka, or is there something else about Russia that is uniquely fascinating to you?
Yeah, and that comes back to what I was saying about the art style, because the reason it's set in Russia is because when I was looking for inspiration to start writing it, I was actually watching a show, and my favourite character in that show was Russian. So it all comes back down to what influenced me to write it and how that might influence other people to buy it. So a lot of the things that I draw on that are Russian themed are actually kind of themed about that character.
Interesting. And does this character have a lot of followers on the interweb?
A fair few, but it's quite niche, so you have to sort of know how to draw that out. You have to
Or you
know
can
how to make
hashtag it.
sure that that is speaking to the right people.
You could
So
hashtag it.
it's yeah, that's one way. Then it's finding the right hashtags that's
The
the
character's
right
name.
version of the
But
show and the name.
just a character's name and possibly draw. I don't know. I'm just you know. But I like that specificity. I like that specificity and that direct connection with the author. Now, something that I know for a fact, and this is a fact. Anybody'd like to argue with me, please send me your argument on a postage stamp. Is that people are writers and authors instead of pole dancers because they're introverted and they like to be away from people with their own thoughts and sit and do their writing. This is my grand theory, which I will be presenting at an international psychology conference. And that therefore they are not the sort of people to go, hey, attention, woohoo, my book, woohoo, I have a book, you should be reading it.
I think that's why a lot of writers find the marketing part hard, because they think when you think marketing, the first thought is that you've got to be shoving it down people's throats all the time, like buy my book. And that's not what
Come on, together now.
marketing is.
Let's do this together now. Buy my book. Go on, buy my book.
Buy my book.
Show your book properly. Yay!
I've got more actually. Buy all of them.
Buy 'em. Yay! Buy books.
Buy them.
That would make a good clip for Twitter, by the way. So we've done
would.
it. We've done the attention-seeking behavior on that. But this is the thing. People, they're introverts. Writers and authors are introverts. And the more indie you are, the more likely that you're seriously introvert because you probably tried a few agents and then you gave up. You know? just didn't go
Yeah,
and
so
stand outside the bloody publishing company with a burning oil drum and a placard. I'm not going away until you publish my fucking book. So
that's
yeah,
the thing.
but I'm
It's the
thinking
thing
if we
about
could
trying to get attention.
well, right, so big currency is authenticity. Being human, this is now getting to be a real competitive advantage and to actually show people that this is a human being who's written this. There's no AI at work. This is an actual human being talking to you in this book. That's good. I think we should, play on that. Showing yourself as the author and realizing that you are not a pole dancer or a sex worker. You're a writer. So you don't have to be young and unwrinkly and whatever, because that's not what qualifies you to be the writer of a book, right? Don't have to have legs.
Right, you don't have to look a certain way, and you don't have to be in people's faces 24/7. It's not like being a influencer in other areas and being like an Instagram model or something. It's
Exactly.
not. It is about
OnlyFans
you,
model.
your personality. Yeah. It's about you, your personality, but in a bigger way, it's also not necessarily all about you. It's not all pictures of you, it's pictures of your books, pictures of your personality, pictures of things that make you relatable to readers.
I am worried about that line, make you relatable to readers, right? So I'm guessing I could make myself relatable to readers by holding up kittens.
Mm,
But
it's
that
too easy in some ways.
yeah, it's hang on, I'm gonna bring forth a kitten substitute. Oh, there's one just behind me. That's just hilarious. But I we're not Instagram models, we're writers, right? That's our star power, that's our
Yes.
superpower. Um, and the writing comes from this, well, this unique personal experience. And so I'm excited about the idea of really thinking about Inserain in particular, which is, I wrote that in 2004. I could not write it today. I would have been stumbling over myself. Oh, I can't say that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't reference that. Somebody will be triggered by that word. God damn it. I was just when I was writing it instead of, ah, ah. So I'm feeling a bit sorry for current writers. But on the bright side, when I first put that out in 2004, I put loads of trigger warnings all over it in 2004. Like, oh, it contains sex and violence and magic and incidences of hypnotic language and all sorts of things, right? And I'm thinking, I could plaster that with trigger warnings from here to the yazoo now. I can't think of anything that isn't going to be triggered by that. Perhaps I should rename it, call it Trigger, and relaunch it. And that in and of itself, that would then connect with people who don't like this whole trigger warning business. Who or who would
Yeah.
like to be
Often,
who would like to be triggered a little.
often controversial books sell really, really well after they become controversial
Mm.
because people want to know what all the fuss is about, pretty much. If somebody's talking about how awful and horrible this book is, and in certain parts of the world they're burning or banning books, you kind of want to know, well, why? What's so horrible about it?
We want to definitely get the Catholic Church to ban our books, right? To tell their millions
Yeah,
upon
if you can
millions,
get
oh,
on
it's
that list,
billions, isn't it?
you're all right.
Billions of followers around the world to not buy this book. Trample. Yeah. So that's good. We've had some good ideas for creative marketing on Twitter. Um, really to remember that when you're doing a little marketing thing like a picture, it is literally just a thing that washes down the river. It'll either be seen or it won't be seen. But to just let that go immediately, to just be very spontaneous and quick, I think that is of the essence for that. Um,
It is for social media. It feels very much sometimes like you're just throwing loads of different things out there and seeing what would stick, what will
yeah.
get somebody's attention today. Because you have to, because it moves so quickly. Even if you
Mm.
just think of the side thing that has all the trending things on Twitter, it's different things every few well, few minutes, few days, few hours, depending on how much traction that current thing is getting. You really have to be quick to get the attention and then move on to the next thing. Move on to the
Yeah.
next thing. Move on to the next all the time.
But look on the bright side, because if you are thinking in terms of creative advertising, you know this. All you know this, creative writers, my friends, my fellow children of the night, you all know this, that the more you do creative stuff, the more the flow ramps up and the easier it becomes. And the more fun it becomes. You know? If you write a poem a month, write a poem a day, wait for a month, oh my God. You know, starting to do things in, what is it, iambic pentameter. Oof, can't even say that anymore. Pentameter? Is it iambic pentameter? So
Yes,
yeah,
I think
just practice.
so. It's been a while, but I think so.
It's been a while. I did write one. One guy once complained about my poetry, that it didn't rhyme. So I wrote this diatribe in iambic pentameter, posted it back to him. There, that'll teach you to criticize me. Ha ha ha. Yes, well, I was young and I needed the money, so that's a long
But that
time
in
ago.
itself could be a creative thing, a creative marketing thing sometimes. Because I've often said sometimes it's motivated by spite, a sort of I'll prove people wrong. I'll prove people that I am this great author, and you could you can go online and say sarcastic things like, "Well, you're not going to buy my book, are you?" And people will want to prove you wrong. It's the
Yeah,
kind of thing
yeah,
that has
but
momentum.
I think I think I don't think in terms of people just buying my book. That's not good enough for me. They need to buy my book and they need to fucking love it, or I'm
That's
not
how it
happy.
should be.
This is kind of a part of the process for me. And so the way I go about that is I try to pre-filter who's going to buy it. So it doesn't, because I love my books. This may be bad. I don't know. I might need to meditate on that. Absolutely love my books. And I would absolutely hate for them to fall into the hands of someone who doesn't understand them, doesn't like them, doesn't get them, and hates them. It's like selling a puppy to someone who mistreats it. Can't take it. So I'm big fan of pre-filtering who gets to buy my books in the first place. Perhaps I'm overdoing it a little. It may be the case. But yeah, my books aren't for everyone. I appreciate that. They really aren't. I have my own way of expressing myself, and I've got my own topics in fiction writing, particularly, that I write about, and they're not for everybody, and I understand that. But there, I love the way that the whole banana thing, we'll call it the banana pattern. I love the idea of thinking in terms of the people who would love it, who I know would love it, and to think in terms of what they find particularly exciting. And that'll be fun because I can actually talk to some readers about that. Real
Yeah,
human
it
readers.
gives you a connection then, doesn't it, with the
Yeah,
reader, and something that, say, if you were doing a book signing or a meet the author event, you could talk to people and
yeah,
they feel that they've got something in common, you feel you've got something in common. It makes everything so much more authentic, especially in the day and age of inauthenticity all the
mm.
time.
Fakeness, you
It
mean?
just becomes so much more
Yeah.
sorry, I couldn't think of the word. But yes, it makes everything so much more genuine. And I think it's an
It,
exercise in the link between creativity and empathy, and
mm,
being able to see from someone else's point of view, think about what the reader might be thinking when they're looking at books, and what might draw them to something.
yes, yes. And I think this is intriguing because we are so separate from each other physically now. We're not going to bookshops. We're not going to things. Not going to the pub. Not talking to people. People not coming round. It's we can ramp up the connection and authenticity between us and our potential readers and have a more satisfying experience as an author. Because as I said, it's not enough for me that a person will buy my book. It's just not enough. It's not good enough just buying it. I'm not making plastic buckets here. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and it's a very tiny part of it, but sometimes, when I get a review or an email from someone who loved it, that's the part that makes it worthwhile. It's not the money that comes in. It's not the people following me on Twitter, because that's an arbitrary number and a percentage of them will be fake accounts. It's none of that. It's the people talking about my book
Yes.
that makes me the happiest. And the sad thing is that you very rarely get to hear that in real life from somebody that you know. It's usually, an Amazon review popped up and you read it, it makes you happy, then you click off it and forget about it. It's trying to build that to the point where it is a real, authentic, genuine connection that you'll be thinking about for days, that you can go back and maybe have a conversation with that person, a bit of back and forth about why they liked it and the things that you have in common that made it so enjoyable.
Well, it is such a new innovation that the author, the so-called indie authors, which is better than self-published, which that's such an insult. Oh my. That the indie authors are the first generation to be actually authors that can talk to their readers without a publishing house standing in the middle of that. It's an interesting evolution. That is a super interesting evolution, and we have not even seen the proper beginning of that yet. But I'm excited about it. So yeah, creative marketing. I wonder what else we can come up with before we go home. One of the things that is really clear to me is that I think it's going to be pretty difficult if you hate me personally as a person or as a representative of various groups. Like, oh, I never read a book by a woman, or oh my God, she's so old, she can know nothing about what it's like to be 15 in this crazy day and age. Yes. Or she's white. God damn it. Oh, she's German. God, that's even worse. Oh my Christ almighty. Never read a word that woman publishes. That if people don't actually love you, I don't think they're going to love your books.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think consciously or unconsciously, every author puts a lot of themselves into what they write. Even if it's fiction and it's nothing. I mean, some of mine aren't even set on this planet, so they're not about me personally, but a lot of the things that make it into them, well, it's all come out of my head. So some of it must be somehow a reflection of me. So if people find me really annoying, which I'm sure there are plenty of people who do, they're not going to like my books. They're going to find them really annoying as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying here. And what I'm also saying is that hiding behind the book cover as an indie author, because you think people won't like you, and because they won't like you, they won't like your books. Well, that's the death knell in the modern day and age, isn't it? We have to appreciate that there is a correlation now. There didn't used to be, because you'd never used to see authors, or even, be lucky if there's a picture in the back cover. You wouldn't know what they would look like, or who they were, or anything. So this is quite a new unfoldment. And I kind of do you know about fucker filters?
No, I don't.
Everybody has fucker filters. That's also quite unconscious. They say and do things and dress and behave in such a way that certain people will find them incredibly unattractive. And that is not like a shortcoming or a failing. It's to keep those exact people away from you. It's a fucker filter. And we have those in our writings, and we have them in our behaviors, in our YouTube channels. We have them everywhere. One of my fucker filters is that I'm quite happy to say the word fuck.
Yeah, it makes
And
a
the
lot of
people
people
who
uncomfortable. I don't know why.
Americans, not in England or in Germany, they have no problem with that word at all. But it
Oh
is
no, you
kind.
you wouldn't survive if you had a problem with it in England because
No,
people
no,
do it all the time.
it's an American thing. But just using the word fuck is a fucker filter. Because if you
Yeah,
can't
and
take me
it's
saying that, then you certainly won't be able to take mentally, physically, or emotionally 90% of what I write about.
it's actually been a big debate if on the author side of Twitter, where people have been discussing how often you should be allowed to say it in a book, and what genres are allowed to have swear words in, and how many you can have, and how soon after the first page it should be. It's a part
Now,
of human life, though. So if you're writing about life, or if you're writing a character that is a human being who experiences the emotions that people do, chances are that at some point they're probably going to say fuck, or think it, or want to say it, or say something similar. It's just part of life that you have trouble getting away from. So I
so
don't
true.
understand the rules about it in books and the
Well,
censoring of it.
the rules about it, as far as I'm concerned, this is your book. You get to put the words in
Yeah,
it in the order and sequence that you choose, because that's what a writer does. That's what they do. That's their job. And you get to choose. This is your choice. One word after the other, all the way until you get to the end. You're not supposed
yeah.
to
No
do
one
this.
should
You're
have.
not.
No one
Creative.
should get to tell you what words could go where, and how many lines away from the first page it could be that you first say something that they don't like. It's all arbitrary and stupid. Personally, just write what you
It's
want
just a
to
sign. It's
write.
a sign of people being scared and stressed. It's a sign of the writer not being self-confident enough to just say, look, I'm going to put these words in this order and sequence, and that's what I do because I'm a writer. This is my job. This is what I do. So, yeah. Okay, so we have putting ourselves out there more, explaining who we are as writers, definitely. We have putting bananas and other objects upon our book covers and photographing them. We have thinking more about what kind of people is our audience, who would love our books. I think that's really, to me, that feels like really important, to think in terms of
Mm,
who are the people who would love this, because that's important. It's not
yeah,
about sales. It's about love.
it is, and more so than the concept. The concept
Mm.
of what we were talking about, having a target audience, isn't new. But I think the people who would actually love it goes beyond target audience, because the publishing industry
Yeah.
has used the term target audience for ages, but they've just meant in terms of genre, or in terms of something quite generic. Whereas
Yes.
we're talking about people who will really feel passionate about it in the
Mm.
same, well, not exactly the same, but in similar ways to the author does. And that
You
goes
know,
beyond the label official target audience.
if there were just 1,000 people who were truly passionate about your writing, you'd make a living. But they wouldn't remain 1,000 people, because if they were truly passionate about your writing, they'd recommend you to other people. They'd go and
That's
talk about
how
it.
it works.
You know,
It's
so
what
it
matters
really
to
is.
people that drives things.
It's finding the first passionate people who are really loving what you're writing, rather than amassing thousands and millions of sales. Yeah, I think that's the bridge that a lot of people are missing. That you need to find your first few people and interact with them and let them help you discover what they loved, so that you can use that then to find not more of the same. That isn't like it. It's like finding your tribe, isn't it? It's finding your
It
tribe
is,
on the
and
great world wide web.
you've just made me remember a story that is really brilliant, because it was when I started in, I think it's 2021. I was doing what lots of indie authors do, where I'm giving away free copies of my book because I'm young and I'm desperate and I don't know how things work. And somebody picked it up and read it and said, "This is really funny." I went, "Funny? I didn't write it consciously to be funny. It's a thriller." "Oh, it's really funny. Your dialogue's really sarcastic. This is really good. Your tone is great. The way that you write is your narration style." And I thought, well, I've never thought of it like that, because it's just something that's subconsciously gone into it. But that person has actually done a lot to promote me and help me get where I am, because they were so passionate about that part of it, and they helped me figure out how to be passionate about that as well. And now it's on all of my branding, it's on all of my social media.
Yes,
It's a big part of what I do. So it came about inadvertently by somebody else's passion helping me to discover that.
right. Cool. Well, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. And then there's this. Yeah, we're thinking about marketing all wrong. We need to rethink this. As indie authors, we are not dealing with, as you say, the publishing companies. They have their marketing thing there, but they're dealing with statistics of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, like single women who have a cat over the age of 43 who live in Boston. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about a person who really loves the Rocky Horror Show. And they may be 16 or 94, or they may be any race, any sex, anything. They just love the Rocky Horror Show. So there's our connection. There's our place where we come together as as human beings. There are these places in culture where we come together as human beings, and it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you are, you're just together and you are enjoying that thing. And I think that's, I'd like to get to that. I'd like to get to that more.
Yeah, it's more driven by personality and interests and things, rather than generic statistics and groups and demographics. It's more about what people think than what they look like or what box they would tick on a census form.
Yeah. It's individual. It's very, very highly individualized. That's what we're going to. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. That's an exciting thing. And I am personally quite excited to getting marketing. We should call it something else. What should we call this?
I don't know. All the current words for it, like sales, marketing, promotion, are very cold and old fashioned, and I think it's more connecting.
Yeah. They're making Pikachu sad, look. What something like post marketing.
Yes, something new, something we're leaving that in the past, that's behind us, we're finished with that. This is how we're going to do it now.
Yes. By placing bananas on our book covers. These and many other things.
Yes, to make
You
people
will be,
happy
and
again.
yeah, getting dressed up in weird outfits. And I don't know. But it's a really interesting thing to do, to say that, to yeah. I think at the bottom of it is the better connection with the audience. I I really enjoyed talking with you tonight, Ellie. So
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you for having me and for organising
no,
this.
it's super. And I'm thinking perhaps we can get some more creative writers together and have sort of a round table. You can have about 10 in the studio and throw out
Yeah, we
some
should get
creative
sort of
marketing
a
ideas.
group and see what people are doing, because I definitely know some people who would be interested, who do their marketing or post-marketing in a very different way, and it would be interesting to see what ideas they would come up with, because they're people that I've seen doing interesting things but haven't really had the chance to talk to about what it is they're doing and why.
Hmm. And it's actually quite nice, this format, because it forces us to have a proper conversation rather than looking at the phone every 5 seconds. And this is
Yeah.
also hilarious. You need a live stream or video recording to force people to actually have proper conversations these days.
But it's more real than a typed out message, because that you can sit there and you can edit and you could think about it for a long time, and you don't really know how real somebody's text messages are, do you?
No,
But
no, you don't.
when you're speaking and interacting, you
Yeah.
can only self-edit yourself so much. You have to present a more real version of yourself, don't you?
There's only one horrendous step remaining, and that's actually meeting in the hard. Ugh, in physicality. Well, again, you know, who knows? In 5 years from now, we could have, I don't know, weekend in Brighton where we all turn up and just talk, and who knows? I'd like the idea of that. I would I have this tiny writing channel with 40 followers at the moment. But I would love to have more creative writers, proper creative writers who are struggling with the marketing, indie authors, intelligent people, creative people, perhaps a little bit introvert, perhaps a little bit strange. And as I said, my dear fellow children of the night, if you are a creative writer, you are a little bit strange. And we have a thing in common or two. So, my favorite people at parties when I was younger and used to give them. So, yeah, that's good fun. Great. Let's keep it going. Let's keep chatting about it on X. I will put your handle. Well, it's in the title, actually. It's Ellie J
Yes, I believe
Writes.
it.
Yep. And I'm Starfields.
Yep.
I'm Starfields on Twitter. So please follow us for more fantastic marketing advice.
Come and talk to us. We're not going to bite. We're not as scary as we look. Come
Post
and talk to
marketing.
us if you have ideas that you want to share.
Oh God, yeah. And we could all do with some fun. Look, and really fun, cool little snippets, ads, 60-second videos on the Twitter feed that are fun and entertaining and connecting. That make our Twitter feed better, right?
Absolutely.
Give
God
us a
knows
better
there's enough
day.
weird stuff on there that could do with being got rid of and replaced with something entertaining instead.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye to our dear watchers, friends, possible friends in the future, and we'll see you perhaps at some later
Whenever
date.
we see
And if you
you, I
want to come and join us for a
suppose.
round table, let us know. Okay.